Yep, we're back. Stealth strikes, a mechanic implemented by the Calamity Mod which in the previous episode of this series, we found out is very overpowered, but also at the same time underutilized. So I want to shine some light onto this brilliant mechanic, as there are some absolutely incredible hidden gems and synergies that go mostly unnoticed. So join me as we embark on this journey to beat the entirety of the Calamity Mod in expert depth, using only stealth strikes. Will we be able to take on the final challenge of hard mode? I mean, we probably will. Okay, enough of this goofy intro, let's just dive straight into the video. So, to start off the second part of this series, the first thing any rogue player should do upon entering hard mode, make a dash for the astral infection, especially if you're a stealth player. The reason being that you can obtain a very powerful rogue armor set within the first 10 minutes, and all you have to do is take out 3 of these guys and mine up some of the monolith. Very simple, I know. But with that, we have our very first hard mode armor set. Taking our max stealth from 90 all the way up to 100, making our rogue attacks inflict the astral infection debuff, and also making stealth strikes create explosions. While this wouldn't be the best armor set for spam players, for stealth at least, this is awesome. Next up on our list of early hard mode priorities was to take down the upgraded giant clan. The mollusk husks that he drops, with the mollusk husks that the giant clan now drops, we'll be able to upgrade 2 of our previous rogue weapons into shiny brand new ones. I'll let you guess which weapons those are, but trust me, the upgraded versions are truly something else. Anyways, before too long, we managed to take out the clam, who blessed us with more than enough husks for what we need. We crafted the Prismaline, an upgrade to the Crystalline, or Crystalline, I'm not sure. Then we crafted the Wave Skipper, an upgrade to the Scourge of the Desert. I reforged them all up to flawless. Man, I've missed Calamity's reforging system. Seriously, Relogic, you should be taking notes. The Prismaline Stealth Strike makes it spawn a ton of homing shards. This looks like it will absolutely rip Cryogen to pieces. The Wave Skipper's Stealth Strike is more simplistic however, making it throw 3 javelins instead of 1. But either way, this thing looks like it will pack a punch against any worm boss. Combined with the explosions from the Titan Heart armor, this thing will be an absolute crowd control beast. So, moving on, I went back to the Tinkerer to reforge some of my accessories back to silent. There was an upgrade to the Coin of Deceit I had my eyes on, but it requires you to take down 1 mechanical boss, so not just yet. As much as I wanted to destroy some bosses right now, there were still some preparations that needed to be made. I'd been neglecting NPCs for a while, and we needed the bandit for later, so I made some houses. While waiting for said NPCs to move in, I went to look for Cobalt and Palladium. But I seriously couldn't find any for the life of me. Maybe the game bugged out when I killed the Wall of Flesh, maybe I was just blind. But we don't really need it right now. At least not until we can get Mithril anyways. So, itching for something to do, I went to gather the resources to summon Cryogen. The ice biome happened to be covering the Hallowed, and I didn't particularly feel like crafting the summon right now. So I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to take out my frustrations on the Queen of Gelatin herself. After all, it would be a good opportunity to test out how my weapons would fare in actual combat. And let me tell ya, the Wave Skipper at point blank range was absolutely devastating to the Queen Slime. I want to see how quickly this thing can shred the Aquatic Scourge. With the Queen Slime entering her second phase, it would be much harder to hit her with the Wave Skipper. However, this would be the ideal environment for the Prismaline. While it didn't have as much damage potential as the Wave Skipper, it made up for that with its consistency and its homing projectiles, letting my more offensive playstyle take a backseat and allowing me to focus more on dodging her projectiles. With one last burst of adrenaline, I went all out with my attacks, nearly dying in the process, but we secured the victory, so all's well that ends well. Queen Slime doesn't actually have any rogue related drops, so I kind of just did this to test out my weapons, which to me at least was totally worth it and pretty fun too. Anyways, I obtained some shark fins from a totally not modded NPC. Seriously man, I am not farming for shark fins. I then mined up some sulfurous sand. You can probably see where this is going at this point. I made some seafood, and not the kind that you'd eat for dinner. You've likely guessed what's happening at this point, but yes, we were going to attempt the Aquatic Scourge. I'm saying that like it's a hard thing. Well, at the moment, my arena consisted of only 1 platform, and I was still using fledgling wings. Don't get me wrong, my damage output was ludicrous, but you can only get so far with such awful movement accessories. Well, taking out half of his health without an arena isn't actually too bad, and plus the bandits moved in now, so that's one less thing we have to worry about. Now I can focus fully on building my quick platform arena. I just love Excavator. Seriously, come on, it's like one of the best mods of all time. But okay, the boss is here now, so let's focus on that. The additional rows of platforms added made it much easier to dodge all the boss's attacks, especially with my serious lack of flight time. And as I'd predicted previously, the wave skipper would absolutely shred this boss. As I got further into the fight, the screen became more saturated with projectiles, and his teeth started homing into me more aggressively. But just like I said with Skeletron in the previous part, just don't lose your focus and get into a rhythm, and everything will turn out just fine. And there we go, the first actually useful hard mode boss has been taken out. Whilst I didn't obtain any of the boss's rogue drops, there was still the acid rain which comes directly after his defeat, giving us the opportunity to obtain another 3 rogue weapons, the first of which being the acidic rain barrel, an upgrade to the blast barrel from the wall of flesh. However, I wasn't too interested in this one. While being slightly more difficult to obtain, there are 2 weapons that drop directly from acid rain enemies. The spent fuel container from the Cragmore Mire, and more importantly the Skyfin bombers from the Skyfins. I found a Cragmire under the water, so I tried to take it out. Yeah, not particularly the best attempt. I came back to retrieve some of my money and I noticed he was still vibing exactly where I left him. I got in a good few hits with the wave skipper, but not before I'd succumbed to my human anatomy. Can't really breathe underwater, can I? With one final attempt, I took him out for good this time, and I got the rogue weapon I wanted. It's not exactly bad to be honest, but I don't think it's going to surpass any rogue weapons I have right now. I still wanted to try and get these Skyfin bombers, and I noticed that most of them were spawning inside this little cave here, but it was kind of hard to survive in such a cramped space. I came back here though, and managed to take out a decent amount of Skyfins, but I completed the event without getting the drop. I crafted the caustic tier and tried again, as I knew from my last rogue playthrough that this weapon was amazing. And eventually, after multiple deaths, RNG gave in, and I obtained the weapon. So with that, I'd obtained every acid rain weapon on my Christmas list. But there was still one more weapon I was interested in. I gathered up some essences of havoc and crafted the Blazing Star, an upgrade to the glaive sold by the bandit. The Skyfin bombing stealth strike makes it home in much more aggressively, allowing you to attack pretty much mindlessly while dodging a boss. And that is something I love. Although on a huge target like the Aquatic Scourge it doesn't really do too much. The Blazing Star stealth strike makes it throw 3 boomerangs instead of 1, which travel much further than the non-stealth strike, which as you can see here rip through tons of the Aquatic Scourge's segments. The spent fuel container stealth strike leaves a radiated area after the initial explosion expires, which once again synergizes incredibly with worm bosses. Okay, this video is turning into a weapon review at this point, so I'm gonna pick up the pace now. I wanted to take down the Aquatic Scourge again, as he can drop a rogue accessory. However, this boss can drop my health like an absolute shig. Like, seriously man, I'd like to say I'm good at this game. I'd like to. Well, these past few fights gave me a good opportunity to test out my new rogue weapons. I found that the wave skipper had the most high and consistent DPS on the boss, which is kind of funny considering I've obtained like 3 new weapons at this point. But anyways, with a smart use of adrenaline, I microwaved the boss into a super noodle. He was kind enough to give us the rogue weapon drop, but that's not what I was excited for. I was looking for the corrosive spine. To be fair though, the Scourge of the Seas was putting in some decent damage on the Scourge. And this time RNG was in my favour, I got the corrosive spine. I replaced my rotten dogtooth with the spine. I also forgot to mention at this point that I picked up some dev wings, so no more fledgling wings. I reforged all my accessories to silent again, received my money back via the bandit. Thank you, Calamity. Oh, and yeah, turns out my world isn't actually bugged, it's just that the tier 1 hard mode ores spawned deeper than I thought they would. While I was down here mining, I had my fortune told to me via a Terraria status message. I'm gonna be honest, I thought I could take the twins at this point. After all, I've obtained tons of weapons, got a brand new shiny pair of wings. The eyeballs showed up and we began our long and arduous battle. After some quick analysis of my different weapons, I gathered that the Prismaline would be the best and most consistent option, with the Skyfin bombers in a very similar ballpark too. Things were looking hopeful in this fight so far, we'd already took Spazzytism to his second phase. I once again forgot to mention, okay right look, it's like 3 hours of footage, I'm not going to remember every single minute detail on where to cut things. I bought the counter scarf from the Clothier, and it's a drastic upgrade to the Shield of Cthulhu I had prior. Okay, update on the status of this fight, they are both in their second phase and I'm getting completely shigged by Retinazer. I was low on HP, they were low on HP. As Ken Kaneki says in Tokyo Ghoul, all disadvantages in this world are due to incompetence. which is basically just a longer way of saying skill issue. When you can't do nothing and there's nothing you can do, you fight a destroyer. I took a nice and relaxing trip to the underground corruption to farm some souls of night. Seeing as my weapons completely destroyed the aquatic scourge, I figured by that logic, they'd do the same thing if not similar to the destroyer. While I was obtaining souls of night, I also picked up a cursed dagger along the way. While its stealth strike is very nice, it doesn't really hold a candle to the other weapons I have right now. Once again, I found the wave skipper to be the most solid option for this boss, and also for taking out the probes as well. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty confident in this fight. I did dash at the wrong time and take an unfortunate headshot, but we can recover from that. His final phase can be a nuisance when he starts basically flying. And yes, I did not recover from that headshot. It's okay though, we immediately try again. I may have lost the battle, but I've gained valuable experience. I made sure I was in a better place when he reached his final phase, and there we go. I managed to dodge one of his stupidly sharp turns. I'd managed to jump over the hurdle from the previous fight. The destroyer decided to coil his shigging body around me, but I found an escape route and ran for my life. I made the same mistake I did in the previous fight, and with one final effort from both of us, we ended in a draw. Well, not really, I can just respawn. I opened my treasure bag. The individual mechanical bosses don't really drop anything for rogues, but with our world being blessed with tier 2 hard mode ores, we can now obtain the mithril anvil, opening up a wide array of upgrade choices for us, and bosses too. Now, while I was eager to get stuck into all this, there was some accessory upgrades I wanted to make. The electrician's glove, a hard mode upgrade to the filthy glove, combining the healing effects from the crimson variant and also making stealth strike spawn sparks on enemy hits. Now that's a tongue twister if I've ever heard one. Next up on our list is the Ruin Medallion, a hard mode upgrade to the Coin of Deceit, making stealth strikes consume 75% of stealth instead of 85%, and slapping on a 6% rogue damage bonus. There was also a weapon I saw I could craft too, the Brimblade. I reforged all my accessories to silent and summoned in the twins again. Upon testing of the Brimblade, my first impressions were, that's a lot of damage. I saw this eye in half. While it was doing ludicrous damage, especially for a weapon of this tier, its Achilles heel was that it was kind of hard to aim, which as a side effect made it harder to focus on dodging. It was especially hard to get good consistent hits in when Spasmatism was in his second phase. Like seriously man, this guy's acting like I just found a toothpaste. To my surprise, it was this attempt in which I actually took down Spasmatism, which left me with just Retinaser in their final phase. However, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of rusty at this part, and I'd forgotten how to dodge the aggressive homing lasers. As hopeless as things were, I'm not one to give up. I put up a fight till the very end. But yeah, I needed a break though, so I fought the Brimstone Elemental, one of my favourite bosses in the mod. Not because of her design. Maybe because of her design. In all seriousness though, her fight is one of the more balanced and fun fights in Calamity, albeit slightly easy. In this fight, the Brimblade was definitely king, as she doesn't move too fast and erratically, allowing me to get some good hits at point blank. Although even with a high damaging weapon like this, her health pool makes the fight drag on no matter what. Eventually we got to the Brimstone laser phase, honestly such an amazingly designed attack. To be honest, most bosses in Calamity are just like, random bullshit, go! But this boss actually has clear-cut phases and attack patterns. It really makes me hope bosses like the Ravager will get a rework, which is actually happening by the way. Eventually with one last blow directly to the face, we took her out. Sadly, she doesn't drop any rogue weapons, but it was a fun fight nonetheless, so who cares. When I went back to my base, I remembered I could obtain the candle buffs. However, I forgot they removed the drunk princess because of a whole situation, not gonna get into that right now. I checked the wiki and saw that it was sold by the wizard now, so I bought that thing, plonked it down on my base, and summoned Skeletron Prime. Well, I wanted to see if he'd been nerfed at all since the previous update, and turns out, he's still stupidly overpowered as ever. Honestly man, who thought this attack was a good idea? Without the laser spam, this would probably be a fun fight, but as I said previously, random bullshit go. Well anyways, I had to get it over with at some point, so what better time to fight the twins than right now. I made it back to the second phase of ease, but we don't talk about this. I started using these Skyfin bombers in the second phase as it was easier to aim, and this time I killed Spasmatism. I finally figured out the tech to dodging the homing lasers. You need to kind of fall down like this, and then go back up as soon as they get close to you. Works like a charm. Although there are some situations that are just impossible to get out of. I made it back here again, and this time I was extremely close to defeating them. I am kind of a professional at dying when the boss is on 1 HP, so we'll have to see how this plays out. Luckily, against all odds, the battle ended in my victory. Once again, no rogue items from the treasure bag, but more importantly, we now have access to tier 3 hard mode ores. So I promptly mined a hefty chunk of adamantite and titanium. At this point in the game, cryonic ore can be mined, but we haven't actually taken down cryogen yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Cryogen is also one of my favourite bosses in the mod, as just like the brimstone elemental, it doesn't throw everything at you at once. In terms of weapon choice, a good homing weapon is usually the most effective against this guy, so I used the Skyfin bombers. They're not particularly great in terms of damage, especially on a small and fast moving target, but what can you do? After a relatively chill first few phases, Cryogen had now entered his derp phase, which is where the fight can become especially chaotic, especially to a new player. However, with some well-timed dashes and a bit of skill, you can easily die? Okay, that was kind of embarrassing. I guess I'll be needing my quick platform arena. Let's see if I can construct it while this guy shakes me in the background. Yeah, okay, I think that's about as far as I'm gonna go. With the platforms, I was able to dodge most of Cryogen's attacks by just moving horizontally, and occasionally jumping. At this point, I had the fight in the bag. The quick platform arena never fails me, and with the final hit, shit. Okay, to the multiple thousands of people that are gonna see that spectacular failure, I'm talking about you, yes you, let's just forget that ever happened, okay? I'm wiping your memory. And boom, first try, there we go. I remembered the Archmage exists, so I bought some ice stars from him, as I do remember their stealth strike being particularly good. And while being a slightly lower tier than my current weapons, it was still holding up very nicely. Oh yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, I completely forgot to mine cryonic ore at this point. I was just too focused on taking down boss after boss. But knowing that Skeletron Prime is just incredibly imbalanced, I decided to proceed with my only other option at this point. The Cow Clone. Well, technically, this boss is on the same tier as Plantera. With a good pair of wings, I personally find it easier than the mech bosses. Plus, she has some consistently good drops for all classes, especially from the brothers. I'm gonna be so real, every single Calamity playthrough I do, I fight her after the first mech boss. If I could, I'd fight her as soon as I beat the wall of flesh. Anyways, here comes the first bullet hell phase, which is pretty much just a B-Tech version of the Supreme Calamitas one. If you move too far in one direction, the projectiles will speed up, but other than that, it's easy. Now for the brothers phase, which I'm the most excited about by far. I'll let you guess why. Anyways, the Brimblade Stealth Strike absolutely shredded these guys. Like seriously, there was no competition. Next up is the Soul Seeker phase, which I promptly destroyed with the Wave Skipper. It's a lot of fun having a wide arsenal of weapons, letting you use each one for a different purpose. Now moving on to the final bullet hell phase. It's fundamentally the same as the first one, but this time with circular blast thrown in. It's very easy to get tripped up by these things, but I had just become one with the game at this point. Like seriously, the luck is insane. Anyways, the second bullet hell doesn't last too long, and I promptly microwave her with adrenaline. Not even gonna lie, I was pretty hyped that I got that on my first try. Sadly though, she doesn't have any rogue drops, so I did this all for nothing. Or did I? Let's go back to the fight again. All of you more seasoned Calamity players will know what I'm after. Oh wait, no, don't leave that in, cut that! When you kill a boss in Terraria, you'd expect only the boss itself to drop loot, right? In the Cow Clone fight, and the Cow Clone fight only, the two brothers actually drop items. One of which being the Crush Saw Crusher. This weapon is very overpowered. We're talking makes all of our other weapons obsolete, overpowered. The Stealth Strike for this weapon throws out 5 bouncing homing claws, which can do multiple thousands of DPS. Let's just say, this thing ticks all the boxes of being a great weapon. Still not great enough for Skelly Prime though. Well, at this point I remembered I could get Cryonic Ore, which is why I thought Cryogen in the first place. I considered making the Daedalus Rogue Armor set, as it had more maximum stealth. But I think the Titan Heart armor is just better at this point. The explosion effect is just really OP. I made some crystal piercers with the cryonic bar I had, but to be honest, they're not that good. I also considered making the ornate shield, but to be honest, I prefer to dodge from the counter scarf. To try and help me dodge some of Skelly Prime's ludicrously unfair attacks, I bought a Rod of Discord from the wizard. I nuked most of his health with some well-timed adrenaline, then used the Rod of Discord on his first skull attack. This worked flawlessly. But however, the cooldown is slightly too long to use it for each cycle. That didn't matter though, I was about to take him down. Until I choked on 500 HP. Yikes, that one hurt, man. Well, if you can still get back up on your feet, you haven't been defeated yet. No matter how many times I died to this guy's bullshit attacks, I knew I'd kill him at some point. I just needed the perfect attempt. And there we go. The counter scarf dodge really just saved me in that moment. Which makes me glad I didn't make the ornate shield now. So, with all 3 mechs defeated and Calclone 2, it's time to challenge Plantera. To be honest, with the way that things were going, I was feeling very confident going into Plantera. But before that though, there were some upgrades I could make, now having all 3 mechanical boss souls and hallowed bars. I crafted the Spear of Destiny, which happened to have Flawless already on it. The stealth strike for this weapon shoots out a single high velocity lance with a pretty huge explosion radius when it hits an enemy. Plus, it can go through blocks, so I know this is going to become a staple within my arsenal. Next up, after obtaining some holy water, I crafted the Exorcism. While the stealth strike for this is very nice looking, having a higher explosion radius and summoning falling stars on hit, I doubt I'll be using it too much, as it is a nightmare to aim. Now, I was planning to make the Angel Treads, but at this point I'd completely forgotten and just went straight into Plantera. All balls, no brain, no arena, and no buffs. A recipe for disaster. But I was about to cook up a storm. Unfortunately, I couldn't really use the Crush Sword Crashers to damage her, as she was hiding within blocks for most of the first phase. But luckily I crafted that Spear of Destiny, so things were all good. My DPS was low, but it sure was consistent. I've had a lot of experience with Death Mode Plantera. Yeah, just ignore the fact that I got hit there. I even fought 2 of them in my double bosses challenge. So I could already predict the outcome of this fight with a 99% accuracy. My perfect flawless victory and her turning into a salad. Even with my low DPS, the amount of times I was charging adrenaline was more than making up for it. Now we've made it to the second phase, where I was expecting some trouble, but the absolutely humongous explosion radius of this thing took out multiple of those, don't even know what they call tentacle things, at once. In her second phase, she also started moving in a wider angle, which meant I could get some very nice hits in with the Crush Sword Crasher. I was dodging her every attack with the elegance and style of a fine distinguished gentleman, while she was stumbling around like me in my first video. And yeah, I think it's safe to say at this point, she turned into another tick on my boss checklist. Stealth strikes really are insane. So, with the plant out of the way, a ton of new upgrade options have opened up for us. The Bandit now sells the 2 glove accessories, and I had my eyes on the Glove of Precision specifically. It gives a very generous boost to damage, crit chance, and velocity, albeit at the cost of attack speed. But in this run at least, attack speed doesn't even matter, so we have all the more to gain. Those of you with a keen eye may have noticed that there is a solar eclipse happening right now, and since we took down Calclone earlier, we can obtain solar veils. A crafting material that once again allows for even more OP rogue weapons, and this time a new rogue armor set. So I took full advantage of the natural solar eclipse spawn, died multiple times, and then promptly crafted the Umbraphile set. I did a DPS test with each of the armor sets equipped. While the Titan Heart's DPS was highly varying, I found it evened out at around 4000. The Umbraphiles was much more disappointing though, barely exceeding 3000 DPS at point blank. I conducted another mini test with the King Slime, and found that the Titan Heart armor made much shorter work of him. While it was kind of disappointing having my new armor set be worse than my current one, I guess it really does go to show how overpowered the Titan Heart armor is for stealth players. I used the remaining solar veils to craft some weapons, and let's just say they did not disappoint. Okay, enough hypotheticals and ifs and buts. It was time to march forwards in terms of progression. We were going to take on a new boss. The Leviathan. And I guess Anahita as well. While I wasn't too interested in fighting this boss, it does come directly after Plantera in the boss checklist, so I thought I may as well. And I fought 4 of these guys in my double bosses series, so fighting just one can't be too hard. Obviously, it didn't take me very long to realise the Crush Sword Crasher was going to be the best weapon for this fight. In fact, it was taking down the Leviathan so quickly, Anahita already showed up. Yeah, this fight's going to be a breeze. Well, after a humiliating defeat like that, I guess the only thing you can do is get back up and try again, hoping for the best. It took almost no time to get back to where we were. The only issue at hand though was that her attacks were stupidly hard hitting. In all fairness though, I don't have any life fruits or a blood orange yet, so I can't say much. Moving on, I focused a bit harder this attempt and we managed to take down Anahita. So now the only obstacle in our way is the big guy himself. or girl, Leviathan's a she I believe. Gender identity of this terrifying creature aside, fighting just her on her own is fairly easy. All you have to do is just make sure not to get tripped up by the giant bubbles, as those things can literally two-shot me right now. And there we go, with the Leviathan defeated we now have access to the upgraded Abyss, and also her treasure bag I suppose, and oh no wait, we actually got the community. And her rogue weapon? Jackpot. While the brackish flask isn't exactly my cup of tea when it comes to rogue weapons, I can still see this being useful for crowd control. I suppose for now I'll ride this wave of hype and move straight on to the very next boss, Astrum Aureus. Astrum Aureus used to be one of my least favourite bosses in the entire mod, but I'll say I've grown to like him a lot. The only reason I didn't like him in the first place is because I never understood his attack patterns. But I suppose the fun with fighting bosses comes with the satisfaction of learning their patterns, adapting, and using that knowledge against them. Just like always, the Crush Saw Crusher was working absolutely flawlessly against this boss. I will say at this point, my DPS felt like it was lacking slightly, but it was still consistent, and keep in mind this boss has a very high health pool. We eventually took him to a second phase where he shoots out these annoying orbiting guys and a ton of projectiles into the sky. Man, dodging with the Rod of Discord is the most satisfying thing. Ah, this shit like ASMR for my eyes. Okay, well, the boss's health was dropping like it's hot, I was hardly getting hit, things were going all around brilliant. Although the final phase of this fight is a bit chaotic in particular. Aureus jumps about 12 billion times while retaining those bullet hell projectiles in the sky, and what's this? I'm dead. Well, you can't expect things to go perfectly the first time around, so I picked myself back up. This was going to be the attempt I think I'll swap out my Glove of Precision for the Amalgamated Brain, that dodge is going to come in really useful. I'm in that middle ground where I'm not getting hit too much, but just enough to slowly kill me. So in theory, this dodge should be the perfect solution. I was at full health and he was at a fraction of his, but keep in mind this is how the first fight ended. This guy was jumping up and down like a 5-year-old when it's bedtime. Like seriously, look at this fella go. Anyways, with one last burst of adrenaline, we sung him a lullaby, tucked him in and turned the lights out. From the treasure bag, we got nothing, but the treasure bag wasn't what I'm interested in. If you saw my most recent video, you will know exactly what I'm looking for. Allow me to introduce to you the Stellar Knife, the weapon that, in my first stealth playthrough, carried me all the way up to Moonlord. At this point, I was still missing out on some new Abyss upgrades and another weapon or two you could get from Aureus, but just watch this golem fight, or should I say, massacre. The stealth strike for this weapon throws out 15 floating knives that stop and then home aggressively onto enemies. Kind of like Dio's knives from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, although I've never watched that anime. Now, this weapon seems pretty great on its own right, it's pretty mindless to use, it automatically homes into enemies. Surely its DPS would be a bit lower compared to the harder to use weapons, right? Well, you see, this weapon is kind of like the Flame Runner in Mario Kart Wii, like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in animes. It just takes everything the other on-tier weapons do, and does it miles better. It's pretty needless to say that this weapon is going to stay in my arsenal for a long time. Now, Golem is a pretty hefty milestone, more so in Calamity than in Vanilla. His defeat grants us many more paths we can take and upgrades we can choose from. The first of which I wanted to explore was the new jungle enemies, which now drop Plague Cell canisters, which have 2 craftable rogue weapons and also allow us to summon the Plaguebringer Goliath. Pretty interesting, but I remembered there's something more important that I should be taking a look at. With the Pixor dropped from Golem, we can now mine Scoria ore in the Abyss, giving us access to once again a multitude of weapons, accessories, and a new rogue armor set. Let's just hope this one's better than the Titan Heart. I crafted the full set of rogue hydrophobic armor. I couldn't give it a proper test at the moment as there's a blood moon going on, so I went to farm some Souls of Knights. The King Slime method always works like a charm. Anyways, the blood moon had finally passed, so I got to testing out the new armor sets, standing point blank against the target dummy and holding left click. With the Stellar Knife, the Titan Heart armor averaged out about 5,000 DPS. Now let's see what the hydrothermic, holy shit, that's 11,000 DPS. Well, I think we have a clear winner here. It felt refreshing to finally have a new upgraded set of armor. Also, while I was mining Scoria ore in the Abyss, I also farmed some Depth Cells and Luminel, allowing us to craft the Abyssal Mirror, which grants us improved stealth generation and a dodge, compared to the Amalgamated Brain with just a flat damage increase. So I replaced the brain with the mirror, as having extra damage doesn't really do too much when you're only using stealth strikes. The reason being, in simple terms, is that the damage bonuses from accessories aren't multiplicative with the stealth damage bonus. At this point, I still hadn't made the Asgard's Valor, which would be a necessity for the Plaguebringer Goliath fight. So I went on a short crafting spree and obtained this beautiful item. Now with the preparations in place, we can proceed with our first attempt against the Plaguebringer Goliath herself, which is one of my favourite bosses in the entire mod, but it has one fatal flaw. This has more lackeys than a mafia boss. Like seriously, look at this, how are you meant to focus on her attacks when you've got a bunch of these chasing you? Plus, with the way stealth strikes are, you can't really focus on attacking the boss when you've got the minions chasing you. So yeah, my first attempt ended in spectacular failure. I knew fighting the Plaguebringer was going to be an uphill battle, so I decided to test the waters with Duke Fishron instead, who is, in my opinion, a much fairer fight. Now, I knew as an objective fact the minute I spawned in this boss that the Stellar Knife would be the perfect weapon to take him down. And believe me, this weapon would never give me up nor let me down. Before long, we'd brought him to his second phase, which stays relatively untouched by Calamity. He still performs his 3 longer dashes, followed by either homing bubbles or the Sharknadoes. Now for the third and final, but also easiest phase. I see a lot of people struggling with this phase, but in all honesty, it's literally just about timing. And rebinding your dash key helps a ton too. After a certain health threshold, he will start dashing infinitely, which I'll admit caught me off guard here. But I took him down without any problems, and I also got the Fishron wings on my first try. There was a rogue weapon obtainable from him, albeit with a 10% drop chance, but I decided I'd farm for it as the Duke fight is an absolute cakewalk. Only 3 attempts, not bad at all. Now, I still had my beef to settle with the Plaguebringer Goliath, so I immediately went and summoned her in. Although, I'm not too sure now this weapon was the right fit for her, not gonna lie. I gave it another go, and this time got significantly further. I'd even managed to bring her to her second phase, which is when she starts doing this attack. It's easy enough to dodge on its own, but if you get a bad cycle, you're toast. I actually got her really low this time too. At this point, I found the Crush Saw Crusher to be the most efficient in taking out the minions. However, its DPS wasn't too great, considering that it's a pre-Plantera weapon after all. You may be wondering why I'm not using the Stellar Knife that I glazed so much earlier. And I'll be honest, the way that the projectiles stop in midair made it hard for them to actually home in on the boss. At the cost of DPS, the Crush Saw Crusher homes in much more aggressively onto enemies, which is why I used that instead. Wait, hold on a minute, the Fantasy Talisman is actually doing a lot of damage. I was able to manipulate its trail of homing souls to constantly hit the Plaguebringer, which would simultaneously take care of the minions as well. I found its DPS to be on the low side, but it made up for that with its ease of use and consistency. However, I still died. No matter what I did, I just couldn't get past the second phase on this boss. So, I gave up on the Plaguebringer for now, in favour of challenging a different boss. The Ravager. In all honesty, there isn't really much to say about this boss, not until he has his rework at least. My Stellar Knives were once again ripping him to shreds, as always. Like seriously, I wasn't joking when I said these things are viable up until Moonlord. Anyways, we've now took him to his second phase, or should I say the run in a straight line phase. Seriously man, I can't wait to see what they do with this fight, especially considering it will be post-Providence. It's just kind of awkward where it is right now in terms of progression. But either way, we took him down, got ourselves a rage upgrade and a brand new rogue weapon. So definitely no complaints on my part. Still can't take down the Plaguebringer though. Okay, well you know what, f the Plaguebringer, let's just try Lunatic Cultists instead. I'm not spending 100 attempts on that boss just to get some mediocre rogue weapons, it'll probably be outclassed within like 10 minutes. But anyways, the Cultist fight is always fairly... I made slightly more of an effort to dodge this time, and with some adrenaline powered stealth strikes, I got him down pretty low. Things were looking very hopeful this time. But I got caught in a bad spot. This time I tried using the Fantasy Talisman, and I also remembered I had an arena in the Sulphurous Sea. The journey to get there was very smooth enough that I charged up some adrenaline, and before long we had arrived, with the cultist only sitting at half of his health now. Soon enough that half would turn into a quarter, and my attempt would turn into a failure. I was super close though, so I knew this would be the session that I beat this guy. The Fantasy Talismans were doing some incredible work. Under 20,000 health now, and man, it's always them ancient light attacks that get me. Still though, I'm not giving up. We were getting closer and closer with every single attempt. Under 10,000 now, and I was pretty low on health myself. I kind of messed up here and accidentally spawned a Phantasmal Dragon. But the cultist was so low now, and with one final stealth strike, we took him out. Another milestone of progression achieved, which moves us forward to the final chapter of this video. It was finally time to challenge the Moon Lord. Well, it's just not that dramatic, is it? Well, anyways, let's move straight on to the pillars then. Now, the pillar you choose first doesn't particularly matter for rogue players, but what does matter is you picking up every meld blob you see, as they are essentially just rogue fragments, plus they drop from every type of pillar too. While it was starting to show signs of aging, the Stellar Knife was still holding up flawlessly, see what I did there, against the Vortex pillar, and within a short amount of time, I had it taken down. So, let's see what you can make of these meld blobs. The first thing I remembered almost immediately from a previous playthrough was the Dark Matter Sheath, a direct upgrade to the Ruin Medallion which allows stealth strikes to be performed at only 50% of your maximum stealth, which at this point is probably even more essential than having wings. Doubling the rate you can perform stealth strikes, increasing the damage and also increasing your stealth regen, like come on, that's insane. With the remaining meld blobs I had left, I crafted some Shards of Antumbra, a consumable javelin type weapon, and then moved along to the next pillar, the Solar Pillar. Since there's nothing we can actually craft with the fragments, not until taking down the Moon Lord, I'm just gonna skip through these as they were mostly the same old thing. I'd plunk my ass down and spam stealth strikes, get myself killed a few times, and then inevitably destroy the pillar. At least now I had enough meld blobs to craft the next weapon. The Star of Destruction, a huge slow moving disc that explodes into homing shards based on how many enemies the disc hit. I used it to absolutely destroy the Stardust pillar. Now at this point I could just take down the Nebula pillar and face the Moon Lord, but there was one more boss I wanted to take out. With a Titan Heart in hand, you offer it up to the Astral Beacon, at night time of course, and then for some reason it creates this wormy out of absolutely nothing. Weird, huh? But he has some good loot, so we're going to be fighting him anyways. Now, in my previous stealth playthrough, the Star of Destruction completely shigged him, so that's going to be the weapon of choice, I guess. And man was I not wrong, this thing had already taken him to his second phase. You see, the first phase is just a trick you into a false sense of security. Now he's going to split into 2 worms, and it's going to be a decent bit harder. But if you've seen my double bosses videos, I had to fight this guy on 10 times HP, so needless to say, I've got the experience and skill required for this fight. I wish I was joking as well, that fight actually took 45 minutes. It's also how I found out, when he enrages during the day, he actually unenrages when it's nighttime again. So yeah, while the video quality is questionable, you should probably go and watch my Double Bosses series, as it's actually pretty interesting. I don't think anybody's actually covered that challenge in Calamity, aside from Gungnir, but that was vanilla. We're talking about Calamity here. Okay, now I seriously need to stop waffling. We're in the 3rd phase of Astrum Deus when both worms are at half of their HP. It's an absolute projectile spam bullet hell. Plus, you've got the 2 worms coming at you like freight trains. You've got to watch out and make sure you dash at the right time. But yeah, these guys were absolutely nothing to me, and the overwhelming power of my stealth strikes. We'd taken down the first worm, I nearly got myself killed, but I'd return to full HP, and shortly after the second worm would fall too. Now, Astrum Deus drops a rogue weapon, but I didn't get it. But that's fine though, because we can mine Astral Ore now, which will grant us access to another rogue weapon. An upgrade to one of our previous weapons. The Oh, I need more Stardust. The Radiant Star, an upgrade to the Prismaline which we obtained in the very beginning of this video. I didn't realize it yet, but notice how the explosion spawns falling stars? Get ready to witness the star shower of a lifetime. Keep in mind, I didn't know this would happen at this point. I summoned him back in to have another chance at getting that rogue weapon, and oh my goodness. Did they even test this thing? No, like I'm serious, did they? Well, looks like we're in the 2nd phase already. If you can trigger the star shower while they're going vertically, it can absolutely shred through their health. This is what I play Calamity for, man. Seriously, tell me, what other mod does this? I'm not even mad that I died here, this thing's just too funny. But anyways, on the next attempt we did actually take him out. Still no rogue weapon though. I'm just gonna leave this in because of how satisfying this was. And still no— oh wait, no, we actually got the rogue weapon, let's go. I thought I'd challenge my old enemy here, the Plaguebringer Goliath. Perhaps my new weapons could help take her down. I'll admit the Radiant Star was giving her a good hiding. In fact, I even got her to her 2nd phase. But I was just still too bad at the game. Well, I guess there's nothing else to do except take down the Moon Lord now. He'd be a good health pool to test out the Regulus Riot on. So let's do this. The Regulus Riot is one of those lazy weapons which you can just throw in one direction and pretty much every hit will land. Its long range is It's long range, it's homing, it does decent damage, it's the perfect weapon for if you want to focus on dodging. So I did exactly that, and let the Regulus Riot chip away at the Moonlord's health, slowly but surely. This time I remembered to dodge the Death Laser. I don't know about you, but in my humble honest opinion, I think Calamity Expert Death Moonlord is easier than normal Moonlord in vanilla. Calamity makes his eye beams no longer predictive, which in turn makes them at least 100 times easier to dodge. And another brilliant change Calamity does is that the True Eye of Cthulhu's no longer fire their death lasers, which is an incredibly unfair attack which can only be dodged by being super far away from the boss. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Terraria to bits, but some of the boss designs are just kinda stupid. We was making some brilliant progress on Moonlord. In fact, we was about to take him out and then... Bro, why didn't I dodge that? Okay, let's try that again. We'd made it back to the core phase with relative ease, and this time I was a lot more focused. All I had to do was spam the Regulus Riot and win. Seriously, this weapon is amazing. Okay, just throw the weapon and don't get hit. He must be on like 4 HP now. I'm gonna peel this guy open like a banana and open him up like a tin of beans. Heh, you fool. This isn't where my journey ends. This is just the beginning! Okay, yay, we killed the Moonlord, let's go. And with that, the second part of this series, I'm not even gonna call this a challenge anymore, comes to a conclusion. To all of you special ladies and shigmen who made it to the end of this video, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure. If you'd like to see more content just like this, and also want to help us take over Terraria YouTube, then please do consider subscribing to my channel, as the support you amazing shigs give will only help us make better and better videos. One day I'm gonna overtake you, Chippy. One day! So my list of mods will be in the description, my Discord server will be in the description, you should probably join it, it's actually a pretty chill and goofy community. The music I've used in this video will be in the description, and the next part of this series will be out next Saturday. See ya. But before I go, don't forget to make a cup of tea.